What values are many Darwinist atheists advocating nowadays? Freedom, equality, human rights, women's rights? Let's see the status of women in the Darwinian scientific framework. Charles Darwin planted the seed for the evolutionary inferiority for women. In his book, The Descent of Man, in a section titled Difference in the Mental Powers of the Two Sexes, he described some female characteristics as characteristics of lower races. Then came the well-known French scientist Gustave Le Bon. In a scientific publication in the science journal Revue d'Anthropologie, Volume 2, Number 2, 1879. What I will say is shocking, so I'll provide the reference for you to see for yourself. This is a summary of the actual text, yet still very long, so I will tell you when it ends. Gustave Le Bon says, in the most intelligent races, like Parisians, there is a considerable percentage of women whose brains come nearer in volume to the skulls of gorillas than to the skulls of the most developed males. This inferiority is so obvious. All psychologists who have studied the intelligence of women recognize today that they represent the most inferior forms of human evolution and are much nearer to savages and children than to the civilized adult male. Without doubt, there exist some distinguished women, very superior to the average man, but they are as exceptional as the birth of any monstrosity, as, for example, of a gorilla with two heads. Consequently, we may neglect them entirely. This is the end of Le Bon's quote. I apologize to my female viewers, but I'm just the messenger. Dr. Jerry Bergman wrote several articles to highlight the inferiority of women concept in Darwinism. They are all summarized in the book, Women Between Darwinism and Atheism. I think it's clear now that based on Darwinian evolution, which atheists adopt, there is no equality, no freedom, no human rights, and no women's rights. The values that they call to are demolished by their Darwinism. Now, dear viewers, let's engage in discussion with the atheist. Some atheists will say, we do not agree with all the practices that were committed in the name of Darwinism and atheism. Rather, we believe in equality among all mankind. But then the question to them becomes, aren't you betraying your Darwinism in this case? Aren't you deviating from the scientific conclusions of Darwinism in your perspective by bowing to popular slogans such as human rights and women's rights? Based on your Darwinism, you must abide by your belief in the survival of the fittest, nature's law, which brought you to this life. You should not betray blind Mother Nature that brought you to existence, or put any obstacles in her path to select the fittest. In Darwinism, there is no justification for moral values. Rather, the Darwinian struggle requires the races that consider themselves superior to be selfish, greedy, monopolizing, to attack the inferior races, exterminate them, and reproduce at their expense. You, atheist, have one of two options. You either follow your aforementioned predecessors and their criminal legacy. Sorry, I mean moral legacy per your Darwinism. Or you acknowledge the existence of inherent moral values and original equality among humans and reject the previously mentioned Darwinian practices. But then you would be contradicting yourself, as in your materialist worldview, there is no place for values as discussed in the previous episode. And borrowing morals from outside your materialistic viewpoint is an implicit acceptance of the failure of your materialistic Darwinian viewpoint, and an admission of its inadequacy for human needs. Thus, when you, the atheist, adopt human values in dealing with other races without discrimination, and adopt the value of mercy towards the weak, you are committing immoral acts per your Darwinistic viewpoint. Because, as per the example we gave earlier, you allowed lower species in the evolutionary ladder to reproduce at the expense of higher species. If we take care of monkeys at the expense of humans, it would not be a moral act. Your Darwinism makes your mercy towards other races, the weak and the disabled, immoral. Listen to your scholars who remained true to their Darwinism and did not contradict themselves. According to Herbert Spencer, the idea of providing preventive health care, state sponsorship of health care, and vaccinating citizens is contradictory to the basic principles of natural selection, as is supporting the weak and trying to protect the sick to ensure their survival. These are your scholars who remain true to their Darwinism. How would you reply to them? On what basis would you fault them? What is your scientific justification for adopting good morals? Richard Weikart, in this regard, says Darwinism, or at least some naturalistic interpretation of Darwinism, succeeded in turning morality on its head. neither Hitler nor his Nazi followers would have had the necessary scientific underpinnings to convince themselves and their collaborators that one of the world's greatest atrocities was really morally praiseworthy. If you, Darwinists, equate the healthy and disabled, the intelligent and foolish, the male and female, what is your rationale for stopping at this point? Why don't you carry on and equate humans with chimpanzees, gorillas, and other species that are evolutionary, close to humans according to your belief? Especially since you don't believe in any distinctive spiritual value which differentiates humans from animals. Francis Fukuyama, in The End of History, says what can be summarized as, if we truly believe that the human is merely an organism in an animal hierarchy, subject to the laws of nature with no transcendent values, then it is inevitable that all living organisms have equal rights. Consequently, we are not allowed to defend egalitarian rights. There is either a savage social segregation or an impossible egalitarianism. Some people might say there are atheists with good morals. We reply, it's not a question of whether an atheist can be moral or a believer can be immoral. Rather, the rational question is, does atheism lead to good morals? Obviously, the good morals that some atheists have isn't because of atheism, because the belief that we're here in this life without purpose, without guardianship, and without rewards or penalties for our actions, good or bad. This belief cannot be a motivation for good morals. However, a person is affected by multiple factors, such as upbringing and the surrounding environment. And atheistic conviction isn't the only factor shaping a person's morals. In contrast, true belief in the existence of Allah, in the Islamic perspective, propels the believer towards the most noble morals. If a believer has bad morals, then it is due to a deficiency in his belief, and not because his belief caused or led to the bad morals. The atheist, however, is in harmony with his atheistic principles when he adopts the worst morals, and schizophrenically contradicts and betrays his materialism when he adopts good morals. The atheist might say, modern science helps us debunk errors in Darwin's theory, which led to segregation and racism without tearing down the whole theory. Again, I reiterate, this is not the place or time to refute Darwinism. However, we will respond to this point by highlighting that Darwinism claims that all species, including humans, are constantly evolving. This necessitates the existence of a higher race and a lower race within the current human populations. This is indisputable among Darwinists. They might, however, debate the criterion for this evolutionary differentiation. Is it according to the size of the skull, the color of the eyes, frontal bossing, the size of the nose, intelligence, skills, psychological makeup, etc.? In principle, however, according to Darwinism, there must be lower and higher races among humans, leading inevitably to the hateful discrimination that we saw. You can now understand the blessing in Islam of stressing the original equality among human beings. Allah says what is translated as, O mankind, indeed, we have created you from male and female, and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is knowing and acquainted, the most righteous of you. In Islam, the sphere of competition is in something people can strive to achieve, righteousness, not skin color, size of lips, or shape of nose. Then you will realize the blessing of Islam, whose Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, no favor of an Arab over a foreigner, nor a foreigner over an Arab, nor white skin over black skin, nor black skin over white, except by righteousness. And women are counterparts of men. Praise be to Allah who guided us to know that we do not exist on this earth to fight for survival, but to worship Allah, who decreed among of the most important means for his worship, kindness to people, mercy towards the weak, and altruistic acts. Peace be upon you all.